Today is day 249. Our faith is like a race, not a walk or not a casual jog, but a race. And racing demands endurance, it demands discipline. If you're racing against other people, especially at long distances, it requires this refusal to quit, but to keep going and to go harder even when it gets hard and even when it gets tired. You just have to continue to push through. And our faith's a lot like literally racing. The course can be uphill and long, and your lungs are going to be burning. And when you race, you just have to keep pushing harder. And if you've ever done it, like if you've ever ran long distances and pushed yourself as hard as you can go, it is a very interesting and difficult experience. And Paul actually, he compares the Christian life to running, interestingly enough. And he does this because running requires two things that kind of mirror our walk with Christ. In this, the two things are commitment and perseverance. Commitment and perseverance. And again, when you think about a runner, they don't stop when things get hard. Like when they get tired and they're in the last mile, they don't stop there. They finish strong to get where they're going in the best amount of time. And I think that whole idea of like pushing hard when things get tough is kind of countercultural, because we want instant results and immediate gratification in this culture. Like we want health without having to be disciplined. We want success without having to sacrifice a bunch of things day after day and year after year. We just want this immediate success instead. And then we want spiritual growth without persistence and without spiritual training day in and day out. But the more I've learned about God's kingdom, I remind myself that it's not a kingdom that operates on shortcuts, but God is shaping you and I into people who can actually finish the race, who can go the distance. And our physical health and our mental health and our spiritual health, all that seems to be interconnected. Like if we treat our bodies carelessly with lack of exercise or by consuming bad things, oftentimes our minds grow calloused and weary. And then if we let our minds be filled with negative, bad things, our spirit starts to seemingly be affected by that. And I think that's why God calls us to run the race with everything that we are: body, mind, soul. And why? For His glory. So Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, it says this: "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting Him, He endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now He is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility He endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up." So this is the theme behind this. Is He's saying, lay aside, like strip off every weight that slows you down. What's that mean? Like the unhealthy habits, the toxic way of thinking, the sin that is just keeping you held down. It's like you can't run a marathon if you got a bunch of bricks strapped on your back. And I think spiritually speaking, a lot of us are trying to follow Jesus while we're carrying these things that are not of Him. So how do we keep going? How do we actually run this race and finish it well? You look to Jesus. How you try to be more like Christ. And you look to what Jesus did for us, which is He endured more than anyone could ever imagine. Jesus didn't stop even when He was rejected, even when He was beaten, even when He was nailed to the cross. Like, Jesus continued to keep going. And right there, that last verse in verse 3, is pretty impactful. It says, think of all the hostility that he endured from sinful people, and then you won't become weary and give up. Like, when you're tempted to want to slow down or to stop, think about what Jesus did for us in our life. That's the most inspiring example that's ever been set before us. So when you think about, just like practically speaking, our life as a race, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be tests along each chapter or each mile of our life, if you will. There's going to be those miles of life or those days that you feel strong, and there's going to be those days where you feel like you can't take another step. Obviously, that's the nature of it. There's going to be good and there's going to be bad. But if you can just remember the perspective of, there's endurance that I'm building up in these moments, even the difficult ones, like that will help sustain you when you are tempted to quit. Like, endurance is built in these daily moments, one step in front of the other, like those fork in the road decisions that you have every day, such as, hey, I want to sleep in today, but I'm going to choose to wake up early. I'm going to choose to do the hard thing. I'm going to choose to nourish my body and eat the right thing, when it's a lot more tempting to fill it with junk and to drink junk. It's like these small daily decisions. I say it all the time, but it's true. It's these small daily decisions. That's what's training your mind and your body and your spirit to be able to run this race well. So then, just lastly, here's like when you're tempted to slow down and you're having those bad days and you want to stop the race, it's like it talks about that great cloud of witnesses that are like cheering you on there in verse 3. Like Jesus who ran before us. Like, if we can just run that race and be a vessel for Christ, we're going to get to the end of our race eventually and hear what everyone longs to hear, which is, well done, good and faithful servant. So just that encouragement today. Run your race in life with endurance, with everything that you have, mind, body, spirit. Run it for the glory of Jesus, because he died on the cross to redeem us. What better reason to continue to run? That's day 249.